John, are you seeing my PowerPoint?
Yes.
So with that, I'll say welcome to everyone who's joined us, and hopefully we'll get more in a moment. This is the second of the phase 2 webinars that we're holding. We had one a few weeks ago. This is to update all of you about our really significant progress during the last few months and this year. We had an extremely successful fundraiser on September 18th. We'll get into that and many other items as we work through this. Excuse me, bear with me for a moment. So we are Urban Confluence, Silicon Valley. Our mission is, as you can see here on the screen, to create an artistically inspired, iconic structure for our community. Our motivation when John Ball and I and a friend named Tom Woolmott started our organization a few years ago came from the fact that looking around, we didn't feel like San Jose and Silicon Valley in general had a physical landmark like many other communities. In fact, most other great communities have them, whether it's the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, or any other number of physical icons. So our thought was, if not us, who? If not now, when? So we launched a nonprofit and have been working now for almost 4 years to get this done. We think this landmark will be really important to our community in general, both to economic development and also to just the sense of pride that we all feel in our own communities. We're trying to build something world-class, not something minor, and we're being very mindful of during this time of COVID. This has been a tough year for the entire world. We're very respectful of that, but we did make the important decision to continue our work during this year. John, you want to take a couple slides?
Sure. So we've had a couple of approvals, both unanimous, going back to May of 2018 when the City Council unanimously approved us moving forward and doing a site selection study in that particular council action. And then in March of 2019, the recommended site of Arena Green was officially approved by council and allowing us to move forward with this International Ideas Competition Phase 1 that was launched in July of 2019. Go ahead, Steve.
This is our site, Arena Green, which was chosen as a result of a very detailed site selection study that John referred to. We spent the better part of a year doing it. Steinberg Hart, third party, did it. We in no way manipulated it. In fact, the first site we were interested in was Plaza de Cesar Chavez, and we were told politely by the mayor and Councilman Perales that we needed to do a site study, which we gladly did. And Arena Green really was head and shoulders above the rest of the sites. It's large, it's prominent. And then something that worked out very well for us is that not long after, Google announced their plans to build their Downtown West project, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the sense that the context of this site just keeps getting better and better. So we've had really great community support. Our donor base is over 400 people now. They've supported us even when we didn't have a site or a design. We still don't have a final design, and yet we raised about another $1 million this year. We're really grateful to all 400 of these people and to all the people who give us moral support too. Some people can contribute money, others just give us moral support, write letters to the editor, et cetera, to support our vision. We think our vision is important for our city and that there's a real gap in our community now that we're trying to fix. John?
So we have a lot of neighbors and partner stakeholders, if you will. They're listed here, and then there's actually more organizations than this that we've done outreach to. But a couple months ago, we started having meetings with our neighbors, including the Conservancy, Little Italy, Spur, PRNS, the Sharks, the other and the city is in these meetings. So basically everything that's going on over near Arena Green, including the Diridon Station development, which is currently out for public comment. by Google. And so we're trying to operate not as silos, but having a common goal of working in harmony with the park, with our neighbors. And of course, the Sharks are an important partner as we move forward, and they've got concerns about lost parking. But let's just say that we're in communication. Every 2 or 3 weeks, we have a hour or two long Zoom call with each of these organizations, all on the same call, so that we're not operating in silos.
I'll also point out that the Knight Foundation, the local leader is Chris Thompson, has been really supportive. They've donated money to us, and Chris made the comment a few months ago, which really drove us to form this stakeholders organization, that it's really important that everyone who cares about the park is, as he said, pulling in the same direction. So we're really conscious of that. So the reason for these meetings is that all of these groups, and many groups that aren't represented here, really care about this critical park. It's the most important urban park in our city, arguably maybe in the whole of Silicon Valley. And so it's important that we're all working together and not at cross purposes. So this is the jury. We've got a really first-rate, world-class jury of 14 people, all different kinds of placemakers, architects, local environmentalists, artists, builders, landscape architects, academics. Jody Starbird, whom you see in the upper left-hand corner, is the chair of the board of the Guadalupe River Park Conservancy. And the Conservancy is particularly important in our project because they are the stewards of the park, and the city sees them that way. So we work constantly with Jody, Jason Sue, who's the executive director, and also Nicole Burnham at Parks and Recs. John Cicerelli, you can see here, is the representative of Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services. John is the head of that department and has been a really first-rate juror. We've got people, again, from many disciplines. We were really surprised by the level, the intensity, the seriousness of the jury when they met the first time, and they'll be getting together again to select the winner in the first quarter of next year. John?
So we launched this International Open Ideas Competition, like I mentioned earlier, in July of 2019. We had anticipated taking submissions a few months later, but along the way, we got a little smarter. We had a bunch of questions from the submitters. We considered them. We made some changes, making it easier for them to submit. And then, of course, COVID happened when we were going to take submissions around the 1st of April, and then we kicked it out to July. So the International Open Ideas Competition was really open for 1 year. And we went through a lot of efforts to advertise, get the word out, reaching all these categories of folks that are mentioned here. And along the way, we received almost 1,000. In fact, we received over 1,000, but 963 were qualified, meaning they were in harmony with our submission requirements, from 72 countries and 6 continents. A truly remarkable response from around the globe. And as we took those submissions in early July, we ended up with the jury that you saw in a community competition panel. We're down to 3 finalists. That it was a blind submission. So when we were considering these submissions by either the community competition panel or the jury, we did not know, we as a jury or the CCP did not know who the submitters were. So it was only after we came down to the final 3 that we reached out to them and discovered who they were, even though Steve knew because he's on the technical review committee. And the 3 finalists are born in Japan, China, and also Spain. Steve?
Thank you, John. And we've been told that we might have been the most successful competition in the world in the last year and a half. We don't know that that's true, but we do know that we're certainly one of the more successful, again, if not the most successful competition in the world. I'm going to take a moment now, and I'm going to show you some snippets of the finalists' videos that they created. The videos are approximately 4 minutes long, which is too long to show here, but I'm going to show part of them, and I'll just skip forward.
Silicon Valley's thousands of companies continually turn innovation into art. This new landmark materializes in a gesture, a white brushstroke in the blue sky of San Jose.
Silicon Valley is not about replicating the past. It's not about replicating things that already exist. It's about shaping the future. When I say I'm an architect and tell people what I do, people often ask me why the buildings now are so boring. And maybe it's because most of the buildings are replicating things that already have been here instead of trying to design what happened next.
200-foot-tall flexible rods swing with the wind, generating power for the entire structure. The hundreds of rods represent the diversity of companies and the millions of people who work in Silicon Valley. Apple, Google, Cisco, Adobe, Zoom, Facebook, eBay. Each rod a different electric tower is celebrated with a conical void inside this new 21st century tower that has the exact dimensions as the original tower.
We like people to experience a connection to the past, but also be inspired by the possibilities of the future.
That expresses the ever-changing magic and innovation of Silicon Valley. A design that combines the past, the present, and the future. This is Breeze of Innovation.
So that's the first of the 3 finalists, Breeze of Innovation. The designer is the gentleman named Fernando Jerez, who was born in Spain but currently lives in Perth, Australia. The second of the 3 finalists is Welcome to Wonderland. And again, here's a snippet of their video.
What happens when you make the familiar unfamiliar and then add a mix of whimsy and digital projection? Welcome to Wonderland. Inspired by Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Welcome to Wonderland celebrates the imagination of Silicon Valley and San Jose. Silicon Valley has long been known for pushing boundaries in technology by creating an eccentric biome composed of gigantic flora. Welcome to Wonderland celebrates imagination and wonder and drives the innovative spirit.
To be honest, I'm still looking for a reasonable explanation why I chose architecture field as my career. But so far I'm telling to myself, I chose architecture because I want to convey what I think is beautiful. Exploring inside and looking at from a distance.
In the novel, Alice's Adventures in
using that negativity or uncomfortability in the positive context.
Glass floors allow for a completely immersive experience, giving you the feeling of flight. This surreal structure invites visitors of all ages back to the state of childlike wonderment and the city.
This project proposes a dichotomy between daytime and nighttime. The gigantic flora is abstracted with one color.
Hologram creatures. This design aims to inspire the next generation of thinkers and dreamers in San Jose, Silicon Valley, and around the world. It's not a monument to what we've already achieved. It's a commitment to continuing the tradition of innovation that made Silicon Valley what it is today. This is Welcome to Wonderland.
And finally, the third of the 3 finalists is Nebula Tower. Back to Welcome to Wonderland, that was Arish Saito. He was born in Japan but lives in Southern California. The Xinrong Liu is the Nebula Tower creator, and he lives in China and was also born in China. So here's some snippets of Nebula Tower.
This is Nebula Tower.
We asked ourselves two questions when we started with the design. First, how can we design a contemporary urban landmark, iconic and specific for San Jose, that represents the city's identity and responds to its history, rather than only building a spectacular structure that can be placed in any big cities? Four, giving the historic object a new birth and recreating a subtly different form in abstraction to make it capable of accommodating new technology and contemporary design.
The design places a neutral cube with a subtle reference to the San Jose Electric Light Tower at Arena Green West. The dimension of the cube is 180 feet and is composed of a lattice grid with a hollow tower embedded within. 4 arched tunnels radiate from the side, ephemeral like a nebular cloud with a vacuum inside. At night, Nebula Tower transforms into a realm of infinite possibility and imagination and reveals the Phantom Tower within.
And what's interesting is the grid frame of the Nebula Tower is like, let's call it a light matrix based on the dynamic control of the lighting. You can have some lights on, some lights off, and the composition of the lighting figure could create something different rather than only keeping the static figure of the light tower. It could be a sphere, it could be a pyramid, it could be anything. That's why I'm saying it really empowers the lighting design and creates a dynamic landmark for San Jose.
Qualities that help define the essence of San Jose and Silicon Valley. This is Nebula Tower.
I think this would be a good time for John to explain the whole point of phase 2 as opposed to phase 1. John, can you take that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So when you look at each of these 3 designs, I'd like you to keep in mind that in phase 1, the submission requirements were very simple. We asked for 2 different presentation boards containing the grand idea. We asked for narratives, but we didn't ask for them to demonstrate how this would be supported structurally, what type of foundation system, exactly how it would be lit, how it would be maintained. And so that's what phase 2 is, to help answer some of those questions. So we launched phase 2 after our successful fundraiser of September 18th, when we did a big reveal and built a fundraising program around it. And we raised enough money so that we could wave the green flag to the submitters, to the finalists. And so we launched phase 2 around September 25th. And the submissions are due on January 18th. We've already had a couple of milestone meetings that were part of the phase 2 program, where we have these Zoom calls with the finalists and the teams that have been built around them. So whereas Xinrong Liu and Rish Sato and Fernando Jerez were the 3 submitters, they now have additional consultants that have come alongside them to help answer some of those questions about, what are these really, how are these going to be built? How big are they? How tall are they? And some of the details that are obvious when you look at those videos that Steve just showed. There's obvious things that you're going to ask about them. Well, those questions are going to come through this phase 2 process. And we are in the process of finalizing dates with the jury and also community input. And let's just say that this all culminates with what we hope is a successful city council approval of the top rated design in a council meeting that will occur in early April. So we're putting specific dates to all of these things as we speak. But the January 18th submission date of 2021 will hold. None of the three submitters need an extension, and we're on track. So phase 3, 4, 5, and 6 are listed here. They're all these phases are described in the phase 2 brief, which can be found on our Urban Confluence SiliconValley.org website. But they're summarized here. So the next phase that would occur after selection, after April of 2021, is to do a further level of design development with the winning team and start to analyze operating and maintenance requirements and solutions. How is security going to be provided, et cetera. And then you can see that the next phases lead up to construction and ongoing operating and maintenance.
Thank you, John. And just a reminder, we always had in mind a world-class contest and idea and ultimately project. And we've been really impressed with the three teams that have been constructed with help from John Ball and some of his colleagues. But Christine Davis and I have given tours to parts of all three of the teams. They all, because of COVID, certainly couldn't come to San Jose from all across the world. But all three of the teams have members from various countries and all across America. And we're really impressed with the way they've constructed these teams with all the various disciplines and really first-rate people in their field. So we continue this outreach that John mentioned earlier. We have representatives of all these important stakeholder organizations, all of whom care a lot about Arena Green and the Guadalupe River Park itself. We've got great city support, people at the top level from the city supporting us, answering questions, and helping us do an excellent job of outreach. John already mentioned phase 2 submissions due in January. Winner will be chosen a couple of months after that, and then we'll return to the city council for approval. John, you want to take this one?
You're on a roll, Steve. Why don't you go ahead and take this one, please?
Sure. Just a note for everyone, we were very careful to include lots of important local people on our jury. It's roughly 50% local, 50% national or international. This will be a gift to the citizens of the city and really to the citizens of the world. If we think about how we are all really blessed with these incredible places around the world where groups like us in the past took their time and their money. They spent years or decades, or in some cases centuries, if you look at projects like Sagrada Familia or St. Peter's, to build magnificent things that all of the people in the world for generations to come get to enjoy. So we're doing this as a gift, and I think that's really resonated for our supporters and also for our elected leaders, that we're doing this for all the right reasons, just to make our city and our community better. And the park will always be a park. Some people were concerned that we were going to take parkland. That's not true. The park is a city park, will remain a city park. The city will own the park, and they'll end up owning the gift that we give to them. Exactly how it's operated is unclear, and everyone from the mayor on down has agreed we'll deal with that later when we understand what the winning design looks like, and then we'll figure out how to operate it in the way that's best for the city. We are raising all the money privately. That is, we are not funded by the city of San Jose, although we did get a $100,000 grant from the county of Santa Clara. Thank you to Cindy Chavez and to Dave Cortese for leading that a year or so ago. And that context-wise, Arena Green is becoming the true epicenter of our city. With downtown West and everything going on on the west side of Highway 87, there's going to be this kind of seismic shift where we're going to have an old downtown, which is the one that we've all been in now for over 100 years or 150 years. Then there'll be this newer downtown, and the new one won't supplant the old one, but it'll clearly be very powerful in the way that we all view it. So we're really happy to be at the center of that. If you look at the Google project, which is immense, many billions of dollars over probably more than a decade, Diridon Station in BART will be, if it's built as conceived, one of the largest multimodal transportation hubs in the United States. J. Paul is building a couple of immense projects, in particular the old Park Center Plaza, City View Plaza. Adobe's building a third tower that's probably the better part of $1 billion. Platform 16 by Boston Properties, another immense project very close to Arena Green. And there are many others, really too many to list. We've got Gary Dilbo and Jeff Arriaga and their group doing a bunch of signature projects for our city. Downtown San Jose is probably going to go through growth unlike any other city in America in the next 10 or 15 years. And we're really happy to be right at the center of that. John, you want to put a wrap on it?
Yeah, I think as we transition to answer some of the questions that are in the Q&A box, as well as the chat function, we will get to those here shortly. But I just want to say a couple things before we do that. In fact, these comments might address one or two of these questions. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the people that have signed in. It looks like we have well over 100, and some of those folks are from our community competition panel. That was a group that participated in reviewing all of the 963 submissions and made some recommendations to the jury that were constantly brought up as we considered these selections through the jury process that we went through in early August. So I want to thank the CCP for what they've done in the past, and we're actually going to engage them as we move forward and go from the final three to the final selection. There's a question that popped up that has come to us a couple times, more than a couple times since COVID happened, and since we've had an increasing number of homeless people that have joined the previous population, partly due to COVID. And the question is, why are you doing this? And so when we came together a few years ago with the goal and the dream that Steve mentioned at the very beginning, it was pre-COVID. And I think, like many organizations and individuals that are fighting through this pandemic for survival, either medically or from a business or just from a social structure standpoint, we're mindful of that. And believe me, we are not oblivious to what's happening around us. Many of our supporters, many of which are online right now on this webinar, have continued to do what they can to help with the homeless and the hunger solutions. Personally, I do that. My wife and I continue to do that. And I know that our fellow Rotarians are fully engaged in that process, our other friends. So please don't take it that since we've decided to move forward with this project that we're oblivious to what's happening around us. We are not. But we do know this, that the people that we have as supporters and donors expect us to fight through this. And if we were to pull the pin and basically back away from this endeavor, there's no doubt in our minds that we would regret it a year or less into the future. And we going back to Steve's earlier comment, if not us, who? If not now, when? And we're just going to keep plugging away because we have hundreds of supporters that expect us to. So, so I'm looking at the Q&A. We got two things going on. We got some questions that have come into the Q&A box as well as the chat. So let me go back, Steve, and maybe you can, let's go to the Q&A. We've been asked the question, where do I find webinar 1? Will you take that?
Sure. Webinar 1 and webinar 2, which is today, will both be posted on our website by tomorrow. So you just go to the webinars section of the website and you'll be able to see them and watch them again or share them if you like.
I will take the next one. Anonymous attendee, what is the budget for this project and who will maintain it? So those are two separate questions. The budget at this current moment is not defined. We made a decision early on that since it was an open ideas competition, that we would not try to set an artificial budget. Because the first question would come up, well, how did you come up with that budget when we didn't even have a program or an idea selected yet? So we chose to not put an artificial budget on it. And our belief is and has been that a truly inspirational and world-winning concept and design will be easier to fund at twice the price of a design that is uninspirational and unexciting. And we still believe that to be the case. There is no budget, but we are asking all of the phase 2 submitters, all 3 of them, to come up with a budget for the project. And so we're narrowing in on that as we speak. So as we go through phases 2 and 3, we will fine tune that budget. Who will maintain it? Ultimately, this is a gift to the city of San Jose because this is being built on city park land. So we're not taking park land. It's still park land. That's not changing at all as a result of this project. But we are coming up with a plan to fund this so that when there are budget crises in the future, which the city is going through right now due to COVID and lack of tax income, we will, as part of the capital program, we will fund the O&M, and we're also going to have some activities on the site that will generate revenue that will also go towards maintenance.
John, may I weigh in on that one?
Please.
Just a reminder to everyone that all of our supporters have been extremely concerned about maintenance of the project. And our intention is that we're going to do everything necessary to make sure that this project is maintained, repaired, and run the way the highest quality public spaces in the world are. And we commit to that.
I want to address the question that I see here, again, in the Q&A box about security of the projects. Did the sharks that were all around town get removed because of the damage to them? So as we go through phase 2, we're talking about things like security at night. So when the project is closed in the evening, that it's not accessible to vandals and that it's actually going to be cordoned off and fenced off. And we're also talking about graffiti-proof coatings. We're talking about security lighting, even at night. And our ultimate hope is that we have some type of increased foot patrol in the evenings that's part of this O&M solution as well as security solution. And frankly, that's a topic that's going on in all of downtown about how to increase foot patrols presence like we used to have on horseback. And so we're hoping that with our involvement, we help the city come up with a plan in having an ongoing maintenance program and not have it fall into the some of the problems that we've all seen happen in the past and is happening all around us right now. I'm looking at another one. What is the anticipated completion of the project? You saw in the earlier phases that we're keeping that a little bit loose. We certainly have a goal to have this project completed. I'd like to see this project completed by the end of 2024 for sure. The carousel, the moving of the carousel is still up in the air. There, as most of you know, or some of you know, there has been a plan to move it over to the Rotary Play Garden area off of Coleman. And that is where it's intended to be moved. But with everything else going on, that those discussions have stalled, but that is still, I believe, the ultimate goal is to move it to the Play Garden off of Coleman. Although there's not a specific agreement between the city and Rotary or the GRPC to do that yet, but that's still in discussion as far as
I
I
will
know.
point out that the carousel is really a wonderful carousel that was open at one time. I used to take my kids there when they were young. And whether it's moved to the Play Garden, Rotary Play Garden site, or it stays at Arena Green, once that carousel is cleaned up a bit and operated, it'll be a real asset to whatever park it ends up in.
The next question I see is the fact that all three designs, at least during the daytime, appear to be all white. What's the design sensibility? I assume you're talking about dirt and grime. Certainly a great concern. We've talked about it, and these need to be washable surfaces. And that design sensibility is part of the phase 2 plan. I can tell you that there's a lot of things that are changing as we go through phase 2 with these three top finalists. So as we have these milestone meetings and as we march toward the January 18th submission date, there's a lot of things that are being fine-tuned. So we'll just have to stay tuned as those designs are evolving. But I will say that I'm personally sensitive about keeping these things clean. When I was a contractor, and even when going back to the San Jose airport that I was in charge of, I was concerned about the white roofs on there that were reflective from an energy standpoint, but keeping them clean is always a challenge. So I'm very sensitive about that. Will there be an endowment to care and maintain the artwork? That is the intent. We're marching down that road. And like I said earlier, that's the plan.
Just a reminder on the maintenance and operations. Again, it's not yet determined, and we'll be looking at every funding source possible, including an endowment to have extreme cash flow on this project. And there could end up being parts of this project that have an admission fee. We're hoping that there would be earned income of various kinds, whether it's selling beverages, food, or having a visitor center or something else. So the combination of earned revenue and an endowment is what we're hoping will happen. And obviously the more earned revenue, the better. And if we create a really compelling place, there'll be lots of people going there, and hopefully lots of money will be flowing through it.
What sustainable elements are being put into the designs and the surrounding areas in the park? I can speak into these designs. I can't speak to the surrounding areas of the park, but the plan is for the electrical energy consumption to be generated on site. Obviously, the low-hanging fruit here is solar. So, that I can just, without giving away anything that's going on with any of the three designs, from the earliest stages of phase 1, we have put a net zero plan in place and an expectation that these designs will end up generating the power that they consume. There's a question in here about future design build or other form of delivery method. Thank you, Jeremy. Where we go from here after phase 2, the design teams that are being formed now around these three finalists will, as long as they continue to perform well, will be the architects of record, and the three finalists will be the design architects in perpetuity. How we end up delivering the construction, we're going to do that in phase 3. I certainly have strong feelings about how it should be done, but we're going to do it in partnership and in communication with the chosen finalist. A gentleman named Greg has asked a question about landmarks being meeting spots, and I love elevation and views. So those are objectives of Urban Confluence as well, and we want this to be a social gathering place, and we do have an expectation that there will be grand views from an elevated platform with accessibility for all. I'm reading the next one. your organization will not be asserting any copyright associated with our entries to the competition, correct? We are now free to execute our designs in other locations. Steve, you're going to answer that one in writing?
Yes, but I'll answer it right now also, which is that other than the 3 finalists, we as the competition still have a non-exclusive right to use your submissions. This would be all 963 submissions, but the submitters can use them any way they want at this point. And we will provide that in writing also.
How will the final design be selected? So I think we covered that earlier, but the jury will be making the selection, and there will be a robust effort at community input following the January 18th submission date and leading up to the council approval in early April. The reason, why so much time between January 18th and all of February, all of March, is because we want to do a great job, not a good job, but a great job of soliciting community input from individuals and organizations alike. Height restrictions, yes, we're underneath the approach and departure of runway 3012 at SJC Mineta. And so fortunately, in March of 2019, the same night we were authorized to move forward with our open ideas competition, that same evening, the city council approved the new OEI height limits, which allows us to go up to around 200 feet above ground in Arena Green West. So we're certainly going to stay within those restrictions. I've asked some of the leadership over at the airport about whether we can get a variance to go higher, and the answer was a very quick no. But we're happy with the height that we do get to go to. Steve, can you take on the next question regarding private funding?
Yeah, this is from our good friend and supporter, Jeffrey Lee. In addition to private funding, what other channels of funding are planned? Are city, county, state, or federal funding grants possible? Do we, that is our organization, have the staff to lead this if it is being considered? Excellent question. We're going to study every possible source of funds. There are lots of local foundations and of course individuals who support our vision. There are national or international organizations that are constructed to or designed to fund projects like ours that make the world a better place for art and architecture. So we will be exhaustive in our study of that, including whatever government money might be available. And as far as the staff, at this point, we're very lean. I'm the only full-time employee, and John Ball and Christine Davis are the chair and the vice chair of the board. We have a huge number of supporters and helpers. We've got an advisory council of over 50 people, really close to 100, including Jeffrey Lee. Thank you, Jeffrey. And we will hire staff as necessary. We've used consultants for most of the work in the past, and we'll continue to do that to stay lean and efficient. But as we need more staff, we will hire the staff necessary to do the work that's required to get to the finish line. Next one is, can there be signage made to address the awareness of the pandemic during the process of this project to show sensitivity to our residents in our city? Some will view this as bad timing. We've always known that. We've tried to be really conscious and sensitive about COVID. In fact, we're sending out some requests today for funding, and in that, because today is Giving Tuesday for the nonprofits of America, maybe of the world, and in there we specifically mentioned that how much we respect the fact that all of us are supporting lots of critical nonprofits doing COVID-related work and important work for basic needs around the world. So we don't see it as either or, we see it as both and. John, would you like to take the next one?
Can you take it, Steve? I got some background noise I can't avoid right now. So if you could keep rolling,
Sure.
That'd be great.
Happy to. What does success look like for this project? Success is somewhat simple. We want to build a magnificent landmark structure at Arena Green and activate the park and make the whole park pristine and beautiful and a place that welcomes everyone just something to remember about parks is parks are sort of like libraries. They're one of the most important assets in communities where access is not based on money. It's the same for everyone, whether you're the richest or the poorest, you have full access to the park. So we love what we're going to do for the park. We're going to be working with all these stakeholders to try to improve the creek and the river. That's Los Gatos Creek meets Guadalupe River on our project at Confluence Point. So success looks like a beautiful park like we've all been to throughout the world, with lots of children and elderly and families and all different kinds of people eating sandwiches, eating ice cream, as I always like to say, enjoying the water, looking at this beautiful art object or architectural object that we've built, and a place that brings joy to people's lives. It's really it's a pretty simple litmus test that we have in mind for it. Our friend Fernando Zazueta mentions revenue could come from sale of a great number of different souvenir items featuring the final design. Will there be an information booth where these will be offered? It's an excellent idea, which we have talked about small scale replicas. And as far as an information booth, that will happen in phase 2 and phase 3. In phase 2, which we're in now, the 3 finalists may end up having some kind of information booths or museum-like buildings there. We don't know, that they haven't finished their work yet in phase 2. And if they don't, when we get into phase 3 and we have a winner, we've got lots of ideas that we will insert into it, regardless of whether the 3 finalists have previously come up with the ideas. So, you know, John, Christine, and I, and all of our really trusted advisors have many, many ideas about how to make the park a wonderful park. Steve Snell asks, will the public have any input on choosing the final design? Yes, the public will have lots of input. So once these 3 submissions are done in phase 2, we're going to have this approximately 2-month phase that John Ball mentioned, where we get lots of input from the public. So there's never too much input. I like the next comment, which is, we are born to create, so we do. That's what we're doing, creating. And a question about the website address. Our website is urbanconfluencesiliconvalley.org. We've had lots of action on our website over the last few years. So if you just put in San Jose Landmark or Urban Confluence or San Jose Light Tower or any number of other things, you'll very quickly get to our site. I've noticed in the chat a number of our dear friends and supporters weighing in with kind comments. I just want to say thank you. It's what keeps us going. Another good question from Bill Souter is, will the presentations and or recording be available? So the 3 teams will spend 2 hours making a presentation on shortly after the 18th. And yes, we will share those presentations so people can see exactly what's being suggested.
Hey, Steve.
Yes, John.
Can you address Betty Niels's question about newspaper info?
Sure. And first off, hello to Betty Niels, one of my heroes in the world. Any of you who don't know who Betty Niels is should go and do research on her later. Betty, thank you for joining us. Please post newspaper information should an out-of-towner wish to write a letter to the editor. I will absolutely do that. I'll post something in our various communications that we do, and with you personally, Betty. Thank you for that kind comment. Jeannie Lazzarini says, I like Breeze of Innovation best. I just want to point out that we started out with 963. Many people liked many of those 963 best. It was a really tough job for the jury to go from 963 down to 3, and now they're going to have to go to 1. I believe personally that over 100 of the 963 had the quality to potentially become one of the 3 finalists. At the end of the day, it's very subjective, and our jury worked really long and hard to come up with the 3 finalists. But I know we can find people who like any of the 3 finalists the best. John deere, are you seeing any questions you'd like to take right now?
I think you're doing a great job. Layla has asked a question about why didn't we choose any artists as finalists? And I guess I just have to remind everyone including you, Layla, that it was a blind submission, and we made that decision so that the jury or the CCP would not be influenced by either knowing someone or not knowing someone, or someone having a good reputation, or someone being an architect versus an artist. So it was a blind submission. So that's the only way I can answer that question honestly. We didn't know who the submitters were at the time the selections were made.
And to add to that, where art ends and architecture begins is really a difficult question to answer. And as one who's looked at all 963, and I know John and Christine would share this, that the ideas were all over the place, and it wasn't even possible in looking at submissions to tell what the skill set of the submitters were. Again, artists, architects, placemakers, just creatives of all kinds. So we were really thrilled with the depth of creativity that we received during phase one. Larry Ames asks, what type of view can one have from and of the icon if the nearby properties develop with high rises? Icon and buildings will both have the same flight limited heights. Larry makes a very good point here. Urban centers evolved that the building that has the best view one day might not have it 5 years later when somebody builds another building next door. One thing that I think we are blessed with is that our site is almost 15 acres. So unlike small sites where a couple of high rises on either side could really box it in, we won't be boxed in so much. No one can know yet what the Google buildings on the north and south sides of Arena Green will look like, or exactly how high they will be. But we're mindful of the fact that buildings are coming. So we're going to be careful to place the winning design in a location that maximizes views from our site and to our site. So Larry brings up a good point there, but we're very mindful of that issue. We certainly wouldn't want to build something and then have the views in both directions be damaged by buildings coming shortly after we are finished building. John, are you seeing anything?
Yeah, just one last word about Larry's question, which is, like you said, a good one. I think, and I'm thinking about the vessel in New York, which is along the Hudson, and it doesn't exceed the height of the buildings that are immediately to the east of it, and yet to the west, out on the river, it will always have a great view from the top of the vessel. I can think of other landmarks where there are not good elevated views. I think, however, for anything in Arena Green West, there will always be, I'll say in quotes, always be a great view to the north towards the airport, because that's where the OEI decreases in height, and that area looking north towards Coleman was always going to be there as a grand view towards the bay. And you will be able to see the bay from the top of any of these three structures. And also looking to the west, I think for many, many years to come, those views are going to be there for a long time. And looking to the south towards the Google development, assuming that it does come to fruition, I know they've got some open spaces within their campus that are going to create view corridors as you look south from Arena Green. And then, of course, looking east, you're going to have always the grand view of looking east towards the current downtown area. And so I think we're going to have good panoramas for many years to come.
Going back to Q&A for a moment, there's a question from Tahir Naeem. Have the wildlife bird light concerns at night been worked out or the standards established? There's a lighting study that we did before phase one began that was very detailed, and it's going to get even deeper during phase three. All three teams have lighting experts on them. We are mindful of wildlife and birds, fish, etc. And you can count on the fact that we're being extremely careful with the three teams as they develop their phase two submissions. Will there be any publication of jury comments on how they arrived at their selections? Probably not. The jury selections are all going to be in private. John, do you want to offer any spin on that? or
Yeah,
any
yeah.
comments?
While that's true, there will be a jury report, and so while we don't plan on currently, we don't plan on making any recorded jury deliberations public. We do plan on having a summarized report that will be prepared by our jury chair, and that those duties are being performed by Julia Zerniak, an associate dean at Syracuse University and a very experienced juror, and does a lot of these public competitions. So there will be a report.
Another question is, was there a semifinalist round? Could those semifinalists be identified? No, there was no semifinalist round, but this community competition panel did recommend 47 ideas, designs to the jury. It happened that the jury did not select any of those 47 as their 3 finalists. And I think what that speaks to is the depth of quality that we had in the submissions. As I said earlier, I think there were well over 100 that could have been in the final 3. And then one other comment, though, when the jury does finally review the 3 and choose the winner, they're actually going to rank the 3 final designs. It's in the realm of the possible that we would end up with technical problems with the selected winner and couldn't get to contract for some reason. We do not expect that to happen. All 3 teams have excellent relationships with our competition, but we certainly want to be safe when we're doing that. John, are you seeing any other questions in chat or Q&A that you'd like to bring up?
I'm trying to decide how to answer the one from Doris that asked a good view from the top of the structure. Is there access to the top of any of the 3? So we're in the middle of a competition, and I will just say this because I don't want to compromise anybody's ideas. So just please, as attendees, be aware we're still in the competition mode. Some members of the 3 finalists are on this webinar. And so I will just leave, I will leave it at that, we have put into the brief, including back to phase 1, that we do want to have good views. And I think I'll just leave it at that for now.
Well, we're at 10:58. So John, do you have any final comments? And then I've got something very brief.
I just want to say thank you to everybody that signed in. I see a lot of friends. I see a lot of people I don't know. A lot of positive comments, a lot of critical questions about timing of our project relative to COVID and homelessness. And like we said earlier, we're not oblivious to that. We're absolutely sensitive to it and have ultimately made the decision based on support from many people that we know, including people that are in the elected and also the staff public forum, that what we're doing is going to make a positive impact in our community for a long, long time. And COVID will pass, even though it doesn't feel like it will. It will, and we'll get our arms around it, and we'll look back on this time and be glad that we continue to forge on ahead with our project. Steve, go ahead.
Well, while we're in the mode of thank yous, I want to thank John Ball and Christine Davis, 2 incredible volunteers who literally spend virtually full time volunteering for this project to show how seriously we all take it. And also our community competition panel of about 33 people, our jury of 14, and then a very important group is we've got these advisors between 50 and 100 people that we've been leaning on for 4 years. They don't just give us money, they give us their time and their wisdom on a almost daily basis. So this project would not be possible without the work of literally hundreds of people and thousands of in-kind hours of support. So thanks to all of those people. I'm going to end with reading a question from Christy Symington, which is in the Q&A. I want to add a thank you. I'm thrilled my submission was eligible and able to participate, and now to follow the journey. It's so unusual to be able to do this, and it has been so generously, informatively, and inclusively managed. So thanks, and will be a joy to follow the progress. Well, what I'll say is thank you to Christy and all the other submitters, because without the creatives, we wouldn't have anything. So with that, I'll say thank you to everyone. And please know you're welcome to call me or email me or text me anytime. I'm very easy to find. I'm everywhere on our website, and we're here to work with you to create something really beautiful for our community. So thank you all.
Steve?
Yes, John.
Uh, Sandra Weber wants to know how do we continue to donate? I think we shouldn't let that one go unanswered. Go ahead.
We certainly shouldn't. So please go to our homepage and there'll be a place to click. It could not be easier. So please, yes, we need money to continue. We've been blessed with the greatest supporters one could ever ask for, and continue to successfully raise money. But we always need money to do our good work. So just go to our website. It'll be obvious. And if you ever struggle, literally pick up the phone and give me a call.